Welcome to our very first episode of Mind Body Revolution. I am your host, Ceara, and I'm so excited to be here with you and finally launching this podcast. And if you have followed me or my business for some time now, you know that we initially started as a small Facebook Live show, Wellness Wake Up with Coach Cece, that evolved into a Facebook Live of Mind Body Revolution and has now come full circle to a true podcast called Mind Body Revolution. And what really sets this podcast apart is we're not worried about the stigmas or the social norms or being the perfect person and having this lifestyle that everything is great all the time, because in reality, we all have our struggles. And a big struggle for women comes down to their health, their fitness, their mindset. And it's not their fault. It's not my fault. It's not your fault. We just are conditioned from a very young age, and as we grow through society, that we need to be these certain things, right? So if we become a mom, all of those things go to the side, our fitness, our health, our mindset, because we're solely focused on providing everything we can to our kids. And as super important as that is, and they need all of that, right? It isn't going to benefit you or them if you let all that other stuff fall to the wayside. And if you're not a mom, if you're a career woman or, a grandmother or whatever it is that you kind of identify with, we are here to just give you real life stuff, right? How can you start to reclaim your health? Because when we talk about health too, and we really want to talk about is fat loss, right? But we don't use the word fat loss. We say weight loss. But anyway, when we talk about that, we're not talking about being the itty bitty skinny model that you see on the catalog that's in the checkout at the grocery store, right? It's not about being as skinny as you can be or doing these crazy ass workouts that you see online. It's about building lifestyles that we can sustain forever. Now, these will evolve as we get older because different dietary needs will change. We'll go through things like menopause, where we're going to kind of shift how we train our body, what we focus on. But the point is, it's building a lifestyle. We're not doing this to be, like I said, that model on that catalog. We're doing this to be the best version of ourselves. And in this podcast, we're going to cut through the noise. We're going to ditch and debunk all these quick fixes and really create a lifestyle that you're going to actually love to live. So if you are feeling like you've tried everything when it comes to this, you've counted the calories, you've exhausted yourself at the gym, you've tried all these miracle supplements that are out on the market, but you still feel tired, frustrated, or stuck, you are not alone. Just want to make sure that is very clear. Right here is exactly where you need to be, because we're going to talk about all of that, and we're going to talk about how to make it work for you in your lifestyle without feeling overwhelmed or, added stress and things like that. Now, I am going to share my personal story with you here just a minute, because if we're going to be spending a lot of time together and we're going to be talking about things like this, I want us to be able to connect. I want you to be able to understand that a lot of this stuff is speaking directly from experience. And it's not just something that we're seeing, influenced on social media. This is really how you can live and transform your life, and how I do it every day. But what I wanted to start with is, why is this called Mind Body Revolution? Okay, it's not just some great title that I came up with. It's because when we talk about building that healthy lifestyle, getting in shape, living your best life, being the best version of you, it is not just about the aesthetics, right? It's not just about how we look. It's not just about how our clothes fit, because at the end of the day, we can say we're going to commit to X amount of calories and workouts, and we're going to lose this fat. But if our mind is not in this with us, it is going to be the biggest roadblock that we are never going to get past. And that was probably one of the hardest things for me to grasp, because I just thought I could keep working harder. If I just push harder, if I just eat less and keep grinding it out, I'm going to be able to break through this. But in the end, every single time, if your mindset is not there to help get you through that, you are not going to get through that. You're going to end up back where you started, or worse. You're going to fall way off track, gain back that weight and more, and then just be frustrated with the results. And you're going to go through this continual yo-yo cycle that I've gone through. I'm going to guess you've probably gone through, or somebody in your life who has. And that is not what we want. So if you think about the definition of revolution, like if we were truly to look it up, it's like a forcible overthrow, right? We're overhauling this image and this idea that is out there around women's health, that you might have around your own health in your own image. And we are completely imploding that, right? We're going to blow it up. We're going to start from scratch. And we are going to make sure that our mind is just as involved in everything we do as our muscles are. Because again, without that mind-body connection, hence the name of the podcast, we are going to continue to fail. And we're going to continue to struggle with our weight, and we're going to miss out on things because either we physically can't or emotionally we can't. And that is not where we want to be. So starting with sharing my story, my name's Ceara. I have been an HR professional for about 10 years now. And let's take it back even further, like high school and younger. I was never the fat kid, right? I was always the awkwardly tall kid, but I was never the fat kid. And I wasn't the star athlete, right? I just was lucky in that phase of life that I could eat anything and I didn't have to worry about gaining weight. And even when I went to college and they talk about the freshman 15, I didn't gain that. If anything, I lost weight when I went to college, however the hell that happened. And I was probably the skinniest I've been. Notice how I said skinniest, not healthiest. And then life starts to happen, right? We actually start to do this thing called adulting. And we slowly just get into this routine of we're eating, or even worse, we're skipping meals. We're not being as active, right? Because we're not in that type of social setting anymore as we start to get into a career and things like that. And you kind of hit this point where you don't really know what's happening until it's happened. And you wake up one day and you realize, what the fuck? How did I get here? I used to be able to eat all this stuff and not have to worry. Now I don't feel good about my body. I feel like everybody knows what the size of my jean tag says, or, like I'm wearing a big neon sign that says how much the scale says, which, full disclosure, at the heaviest I ever recorded was 197 pounds. But I will guarantee you, if I had gotten on the scale more often, I easily would have broke true 100 pounds. And that literally makes me feel sick to my stomach to think that I let myself go like that and allowed for it to happen. And I think what frustrates me more about it is like all the times years ago when like you thought you were fat because you went up a jean size, which was probably just normal. You thought it then, but you didn't think it now. And now I see what I've become. Now I see what my body looks like, and it's not good. It was not good. And I felt low energy. I'm just grinding it out at this corporate job that is just totally sucking everything out of me. But I'm letting it because it's providing me a financial security. Skipping meals because I feel like if I eat less and I'm not working out as much, it's okay because they're going to balance each other out. Not knowing or having enough knowledge to understand that by skipping meals, I'm actually damaging my metabolism. I'm making it worse than trying to help it. So all these meals I'm skipping and then I'm getting hangry. And then when I eat, I just eat like shit because it's the easiest thing to get. I'm just going through this yo-yo cycle. So I realized at some point, roughly like 4 years ago, that I needed to take back control of my health. And if I could figure out how to do this, I felt obligated to help other people do this, but a good obligation, right? Not like I have to tell you how to do this, but I want to, because I know if I realize this in my very early 30s, there are women out there who are the same age, or particularly as we start to get into our 40s and our 50s, that are probably feeling this way, that are still doing that same yo-yo cycle, and they just don't know what they don't know. So I took the time, I got the education, I got the certifications, which, to be honest, isn't the end all be all, because any of us can study, any of us can read a book, and any of us can do, all of that. But it was really taking that in, applying it to life. It was connecting with the right groups of people to understand that it wasn't just a physical thing that I needed to work on. It was also a mental thing. And when I decided I wanted to do this, and when I had found a program that was actually going to work, and I was able to take it and make it my own, that's when I realized that anybody can do this. And when I realized that and knew anybody could do this and I could be the person to help them, that's when I started really connecting with my true purpose, and that is to help women reclaim their health, their fitness, their mindset without adding a ton of stuff to their schedule. Because let's face it, we can throw the busy word around all we want. We're all busy, right? But we have time for the things that we want to do. And as soon as we make our health, our fitness, and our mindset something that we want to do, that's when the real change is going to start. So I found this program, right? I was able to make it my own because, of course, it's like most other programs out there that you can get where you just plug in a couple stats and it spits to you like this canned version of a meal plan of food you're never going to eat because it's gross, right? Or you don't like it. And it's workouts that you're like, I can't even physically do that. So I figured out how to make this on my own. And at the same time, knowing that I had this inspiration that I wanted to share this, I wanted to build a business because I didn't want to be chained to a 9-to-5 job forever. I also found my own personal business coach and mentor. His name is Ryan Clarkin. You are actually going to hear more from him on our next episode as we really dive into, all things health, fitness, mindset with him. But he really helped me start getting those mindset changes down. And once I got that down and I realized I'm not here to outwork what's happened to my body. I'm not here to outwork the food that I'm eating. I am here to be able to take the food that I'm eating to actually fuel my body to be able to produce the workout I want to produce, but do it in a way that I could do this forever. Because at some point, once you can get into this mind space, you realize it is not the number on the scale that you're chasing anymore. And this isn't just, I've got to get to this goal weight so I can fit into this particular outfit for this particular event. And then who cares? We're going to go right back to the way it was. It's about doing this in a way that you can do long term. And that is part of what made Mind Body Revolution such a great name, because we're doing that whole overhaul and we are building something new that's going to last. So that's kind of where I come from. Not many people know that, but now everybody and all these listeners know it. And hopefully more will know because you'll share this podcast out. But yeah, it wasn't a good space. And this transformation didn't happen overnight, right? It has been consistent effort with ebbs and flows and highs and lows and roadblocks and successes and challenges and, growth opportunities, but it has never felt truly like work. It's hard. It's not easy, right? I don't like getting up at 4:44 in the morning, Monday through Friday, to make sure I have time to get my workout in. But when that starts to become part of who you are, when that starts to become your identity, it doesn't come down to a like or a dislike. It's always coming back to what is important? What am I working towards? And how is this going to benefit me later? I didn't get to be almost 200 pounds overnight. So I can't expect to lose, that 50 to 60 extra pounds that I have with minimal muscle, right? So I can't even say I'm just bulky. That's where all that weight came from. But I'm not going to lose it overnight. And it's really understanding that piece too, that this is going to take time. And that's where the consistency comes in. So that's a little bit about my story, how we ended up here, kind of what this podcast means. And as we go through these episodes, there's going to be some of me, right? We're just going to share some knowledge. We're going to focus in, a lot on different, vitamins. And when I say vitamins, like we're talking like stuff you can get in food, right? Like vitamins and minerals. We'll talk about some supplements because there are some out there that are super great that we don't talk enough about, or the stigma around them is that, creatine's a great one. For example, we're not going to go down a rabbit hole here, but most people think if I'm taking creatine, it's because I want to bulk. Well, no, there's so many more benefits to that, especially when it comes to women's health as we get older, to support lean muscle, cognitive function, metabolism. So we're going to kind of, go through things like that. We're going to debunk some of this craziness that's out there. We're going to break that stigma of what the female body needs to look like, right? That we're working towards. Because again, if you want to get healthier, it doesn't mean that we're going to try to, strip you down to a weight so low the wind's going to blow you away, right? We want to get you to that healthy weight. We want to get you that lean muscle. And maybe weight loss isn't even, and I shouldn't say weight loss, maybe fat loss isn't even really part of what you're looking for. Maybe you're more focused on, okay, how can I just get my nutrition dialed back in? How can I really get my mindset better so I can be present for myself and the people who are important in my lives? But it all ties back to being a healthier version of you. And we're going to talk about real fitness strategies that you can use. You do not need a gym membership to be able to get in the best shape of your life. I'm going to be honest with you. The only time I go to a quote unquote gym is when I travel and the hotel has a gym. Everything else I do from home. And I don't have a ton of expensive, bulky, big equipment that I don't have room for. You can have a treadmill or not. It's not required, right? Everybody's got areas outside they can walk. Spoiler alert, you can even walk in place and get great results. But it's some dumbbells, it's a bench, it's a step, it's a mat, it's whatever, an exercise ball, whatever it is of equipment you're going to use, but it's also your body weight. So we're going to talk about how you can work out anywhere. We're going to talk about, different studies that are coming out around menopause and sleep and how to increase our energy. And we're going to talk about things like, how to break these beliefs that we have and how to break up, especially with the scale, because that scale is not going to be the determining factor of your success and what a healthy version of you looks like. So we're going to have some solo episodes with me talking about that. We're going to have plenty of episodes with some great guests. We're going to have some episodes with some current clients and past clients so they can kind of share about their story. They can share about, how they started. We got together what their results were. Because what I really want to make sure is clear is this is real life, right? This is not some fantasy pre-film scheduled out, Hollywood movie set where we just think everything's great and you're going to do this and it's going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. It's simple once you figure it out, but anything new, anything different, and anything worth doing is going to be hard. But we want to make sure that it's about really applying this to real life. And that's what's going to set this particular podcast apart from so many others is we are going to go deep. We're going to get nerdy. We're going to geek out on the science, but we're really going to focus on real life, real women. How do we make this work? Because we're not going to do it by, working out a bajillion hours a day and drinking these crazy juice cleanses and, giving up all the foods we love, right? We're still going to have those foods in our space. We're just going to understand how we can eat those foods and not feel the energy crash and feel like garbage after, but also not have it eventually catch up to us and start putting that weight back on. It's truths over trends. It's making that space for progress so that you can gain more energy, more confidence, and more joy without adding more stress to your plate. So that is really what this podcast is going to be all about. And I think our first episode, or technically our second episode that kicks it off with Ryan, we hit on so many of these things that it really starts to give you that really big picture of where we want to start to focus on. So if any of this has in any way, if anything we've just talked about has resonated with you, got you excited to listen to these episodes, maybe you can relate some to my story and you're like, yeah, I've been there. I've felt that. If she can do it, I can do it too, because it's absolutely true. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Trust me. And you're just done with all the stuff that doesn't work, then this podcast and this community is exactly where you want to be. And make sure wherever you're getting this podcast, you have those notifications turned on. I would love it if you would give us a review, drop us a rating, share this out so that more women like you can find this, that more people in your circle, because we're going to focus a ton on women, but this isn't just for women. Okay, guys, you can benefit from this too. Ladies, if your husbands are down with it and they want to get healthy with you, we're going to have stuff for them too. They're going to be able to apply a lot of this. And if you've got friends, share this out, have them come listen, because again, anybody can do this. And it's about knowing how to apply it to your current life, your situation, that is going to make the difference of it. This is something that you can stick to forever and actually see the results that last, or if you're just going to stay stuck in that yo-yo cycle. And at the end of the day, this is not just a podcast. We are starting that revolution, that mind-body revolution. And today you are part of it. So here is to building better health, a better body, a better mindset, the health, the body, the mindset that you deserve. And we are going to enjoy it every step of the way, because we're going to know how to navigate it. We're going to know how to grow from it. And we're going to know how to keep these results. So again, I am your host, Ceara. This is Mind Body Revolution. Welcome to the movement of your health. Welcome to the new you that is in reach. It is on the horizon. I know you can see her. I can see her too. and we will see you on our next episode.